The text arrived at 11:04 p.m. the night before Thanksgiving. I was brushing my teeth when the counter lit up with a notification. Mom, Claire, don't come tomorrow. Evan doesn't feel comfortable. Let's keep the peace. That was it. Number. Greeting, no apology, only 3 clipped lines. I stood still, toothbrush in hand, foam gathering in my mouth, staring at words that weren't surprising but still managed to sting. 3 weeks earlier, I had made the reservation. I chose the restaurant because it was halfway between us and close to my uncle's nursing home. I had already paid the deposit and even ordered the wine in advance so it could breathe properly. When they arrived, and now I wasn't invited. Evan, my younger brother by 2 years, is 36. A mechanic by title but not by work. Mom, Janice, always insisted he just needed a softer path. Dad, Robert, rarely says much anymore. Not since the year he nearly lost the house and I stepped in with a check he never requested. That was long ago, but tonight the house I'd helped save would be hosting a family dinner where I was no longer. Welcome, I didn't reply, I didn't call. Instead, I walked into the kitchen, opened my laptop, and pulled up a file I hadn't touched in 6 months. Family expenses do not share .xlsx. At first. It was a simple tracker, gas money when Dad's truck broke down, the copay for Mom's root canal, Evan's car insurance that went unpaid for 3 months in a row. But eventually it became something else. A record, quiet but meticulous. Rows and rows of numbers glowed against the dark kitchen. 2009 mortgage hold. $5,600. 2012 Evans DUI legal fees $2,800. 2015 HVAC repair $3,400 paid directly. 2017 tuition balance $1,100 for Evan's second failed program. Birthday trips, groceries, even an emergency vet bill for the dog Evan adopted and then dropped at my apartment. At the bottom, one red cell caught my eye. Second mortgage. Unknown account activity flagged June. I didn't remember why I flagged it. Maybe something Mom mentioned, maybe a paper I glimpsed in Dad's garage. I had meant to follow up. My eyes lingered there. If they needed help, they could have asked. That was the rule, or so I believed. Lately, though, I wondered if help was just the word they used whenever I covered something they didn't want to own. The first time I was called steady. I was 3.5, barefoot on the porch of our ranch house in southern Illinois. The screen door slammed behind me and Dad turned from the driveway, hose in hand. Claire, he said, not angry, only tired. Doors close easy when no one slams them. Inside, Evan, not even 2, all curls and loud lungs, was crying. Mom scooped him up with that half smile that corrected and comforted all at once. You're the steady one, she told me. That's a good thing. The phrase stuck. From that moment, I tried never to slam anything. I returned library books on time, packed my own lunch, never lost my shoes. When the dog ran away, I stood with a flashlight until she came home. Evan could be wild, emotional, full of fire. I was steady. The hinge that didn't squeak. The plate that never broke. The child who needed no chasing. Praise, yes, but also a lesson. Be quiet so others can be loud. Be dependable and invisible and hold the house together without complaint. No one asked if it came at a cost. By 21, the market had collapsed. Fresh out of college, I was splitting a 1-bedroom with 2 roommates, working remote contracts that paid late. Even so, I had begun saving small investments, slow. Steady like everything else I did. That fall, Mom's voice cracked over the phone. It's not looking good. Your dad's worried, though he won't admit it. I drove home that weekend in a borrowed car. Dad was outside fixing the porch railing with a wrench too small. He didn't look up. We're fine, he muttered. They weren't. 3 missed. Mortgage payments, a second loan floated for Evan's trade school, which he'd already abandoned. The letters were stuffed in a drawer under church bulletins and clipped coupons. I didn't ask permission. I called the bank, gave them my account info, cleared the arrears. I wasn't looking for thanks. I just wanted the quiet panic to stop. Mom found out a week later. You shouldn't have, she said. Then coffee's on. That was all. Back then I believed being needed was the same as being wanted. But if I gave enough, held enough corners upright, someone would finally see me, but no one did. Not when Evan wrecked a car in 2012, not when Mom's dental work wiped out her insurance. I just kept giving. Steady as always. And the more I gave, the easier it became for them not to notice what was missing. Thanksgiving morning, I woke before sunrise, not from habit but because sleep had abandoned me around 3. The kitchen light still glowed from the night before. A list of dishes sat half-checked on the counter. I logged into the restaurant portal and canceled the reservation. 24 seats, 2 high chairs, prepaid wine pairings. I paid the remaining balance anyway. I didn't want anyone claiming I caused a scene about money. Then I drafted a new email. Subject, since I won't be at dinner. Attachment, family expenses do not share. XLSX. No explanation, no anger, only a line, since I won't be joining you tonight. I thought you should have this. It's everything I've covered since 2008. For context, I'm closing the tab. Then I hit send. There was no triumph in it, just stillness. The kind that comes after cleaning a house no one else stayed behind to tidy. I poured coffee into the mug Evan had given me 5 years earlier, world's best backup plan. They laughed when he gifted it. So had Mom. I smiled too because that's what you do. But I had never really used it until now. That morning I held it, let the weight rest in my hands, then poured the coffee down the sink, rinsed the mug, and tucked it behind the mixer, where no one would grab it by accident. By noon, the first voicemail arrived. Dad, measured as ever. Claire, your mother's upset. Evan didn't mean anything. You blindsided us. That's not how we do things in this family. He hung up without goodbye. Then Mom, voice breaking. Sweetheart, you know how your brother is sensitive. It's been a rough year. Don't let one misunderstanding ruin everything we've built. She never mentioned the file. I wasn't sure if she'd opened it. By evening, Evan texted twice. First, seriously? You're keeping score now? Then, 5 minutes later, hope your money keeps you warm. I didn't answer. I just sat by the window, blanket over my legs, letting daylight fade without turning anything on. Slowly, the inbox filled. A cousin asking if I was okay. An aunt wishing someone had spoken up sooner. No one asked what was in the spreadsheet. No one asked why I sent it. Only, why now? Why this way? Why not quietly like always? And that stung most, not their disappointment, not their defensiveness, but their assumption that I was still supposed to keep the pieces from breaking apart. The envelope had been waiting on the mantel since June, cream-colored. No return address, my name written in Dad's shaky hand, neat but uneven, like it cost him effort. I hadn't opened it when it came. I picked it up once, flipped it over, and knew it wasn't a birthday card or thank you. Too heavy. Waited. I slid it behind the ceramic clock and left it. That Friday night, after Evan's last text and Mom's third call in 2 days, I finally opened it. Inside was a clipped stack of documents and a short note written on lined paper. Claire, we've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. But you need to understand what's happening because I didn't know where else to go. The first document Dad showed me was a bank statement, an account in both my parents' names. At first, the withdrawals were small, $60 here, $85 there, $120 the next. Then they grew larger, a $1,200 transfer marked repairs, $800 at a grocery store near Evan's apartment, $350 at a boutique he once flaunted on Instagram. The second page was worse, a shady email between Dad and a financial advisor. Their house, the one I had helped save back in 2008, had been refinanced twice, quietly, and the newest loan was already behind. They were only weeks away from missing payments again. Then I saw the line that froze me. She says she's handling it, but Rachel, Claire can't know. She's done enough already. He had never once said that to me, not directly. Yet here it was, tucked inside a digital thread he probably hoped I'd never stumble upon. Whether or not they were asking for my help, the damage was already done. Their home, their security, the very ground they built their lives on. It was slipping. And the one person they had trusted to fix it was the same person they had just uninvited from dinner. The following Tuesday, I sat across from Miriam Kane. Her office occupied a converted Victorian just off the square, all polished hardwood and muted, filtered light. A colleague had once described her as surgical with silence, and I quickly learned what that meant. She was in her 50s, compact, sharp-eyed. Not unkind, but uninterested in small talk. I handed her the stack. Dad's bank statements, the flagged email printout, several years of my own financial records, and the spreadsheet I'd pulled together on Thanksgiving. She spread them out in tidy rows, eyes moving steadily as her fingers rolled a pen across the desk. No gasp, no commentary, just the whisper of paper. When she finally leaned back, she said, "What you've described isn't just unfair. It's a pattern, financial and emotional. And you've been underwriting it the whole time." I stayed quiet. I didn't need to speak out. She tapped the pen once against the desk. "They've learned to depend on your steadiness, on your silence. If you want to stop that, we need to create a structure they can't dismantle." That word clung to me, structure. So we built one, a private trust. The family home would be purchased under its name with my parents' guaranteed lifetime residency. They wouldn't be able to sell it or borrow against it. If they tried, the trust would lock everything down. After that, I'd cover their debts, the credit cards, medical bills, 2 personal loans, but only on one condition: every payment documented, notarized, and bounded legally. Evan would not be included. That wasn't up for debate. It wasn't about revenge. It was about air. For the first time, I was creating something I didn't have to carry alone. That evening, leaving Miriam's office, I stopped by the grocery store, just a few basics for the week. I paid in cash, something I hadn't done in years, and drove home in silence. Back at the apartment, I plugged in my phone and saw a missed call from an unfamiliar number. No message alert, but something made me check my voicemail archive. There it was, dated 2 weeks earlier. A man's voice, mid-40s, clipped and professional. "Hi, this is Tom Reeves from First Capital Credit Union. I'm calling for Claire Holden. I just wanted to confirm a Kazime request submitted on October 30th for a new personal line of credit under Evan Holden. If you could call us back to verify, we'd appreciate it." He left a callback number. No urgency in his tone, no red flag in his delivery. But the weight was there. I had never made that request. I had never signed anything. And yet my name, my credit, my identity had been used without so much as a text. I saved the voicemail, forwarded it to Miriam, and never called the bank back. I didn't need to. What I felt wasn't shock. It was clarity. No misunderstanding remained. Only proof. We met at the house on a Thursday morning. The air was cold and bright, carrying the scent of frozen leaves and a faint burn of wood smoke from down the block. The kitchen was unchanged. Pine cabinets, the same maple tree through the window, the same ceramic clock over the stove, still. 5 minutes fast. Dad wore his old brown corduroy jacket, the one he always draped across the pew at church. On his wrist was the scratched Timex I had given him at 16 with babysitting money and a Sears coupon. He slipped it off and set it beside the trust documents. As if the watch itself might get in the way, Miriam walked us through each page. Methodical calm, no interruptions, no objections. Mom asked one question about the residency clause. "So this guarantees we won't be forced out?" "It guarantees you'll never lose this house," I answered. "But you can't borrow." Against it again. She gave a small nod. Then, slowly, they both signed. Their pens moved like they were tracing a map they never expected to follow. When it was done, Miriam closed the folder and reached for the notary stamp. Mom looked at me. "You didn't have to do this." I met her eyes. "No," I said. "I didn't." No hug, no apology. Just the click of the stamp and the quiet scratch of a pen sliding back into its cap. Outside, the wind lifted brittle leaves across the driveway. Inside, stillness. He came 3 nights later, just after 8. Rain had slicked the streets, the air heavy with wet asphalt. 3 knocks sounded on my door, even deliberate, as if rehearsed. Through the peephole, I saw him drenched. No umbrella, only a sweatshirt clinging to his arms. His face wasn't angry, only bruised, hard, bitter. I opened the door halfway. "So that's it," he said. "You buy the house and cut us out?" I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I handed him the folder from the entry table, already open to page 4, beneficiary restrictions. "You could have told me," he muttered, not looking at the page. "Didn't have to sneak it. I did tell you. Every time I covered your rent, every time I patched your overdrafts. You didn't hear it because I never shouted." He stepped inside, arms folded, voice lowered. "So what now?" "You're done." "With me? No," I said evenly. "You were done with me the moment you stood there and watched them disinvite me from a table I belonged at." He blinked, then again. "It was Mom's idea." "It was your silence," I replied. He looked down, then away. The folder sagged in his damp hands, the edges curling. So what do I even have left? Whatever you decide to build. He gave a single nod and stepped back. No slam door, no final word, just the quiet sound of wet shoes retreating. Down the hall and for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilt. Only lightness. The days after were quiet, not the anxious quiet of waiting for a phone to ring, but the kind that settles and stays. I opened my calendar and deleted the recurring reminders. Dad's cholesterol check, Mom's dental appointments, Evan's lease renewal. I canceled the automatic flower deliveries I arranged long ago, Mother's Day, Father's Day, just because. Each time I paused, waiting for the system to ask if I was sure. It never did. That Friday evening I came home from work and realized I hadn't heard my phone buzz once. No one asking for money, no one needing a flight booked. The apartment was still. I slipped off my shoes, turned on a lamp, and made dinner for one, slowly, without rush. I roasted a tray of vegetables, warmed a slice of sourdough, and poured myself a glass of wine. It wasn't extravagant, but I savored each bite, unhurried, without waiting for the chime of a doorbell or the weight of an apology. For years, I believed this kind of quiet would collapse into loneliness. Instead, it opened up space, the kind I hadn't felt in years. On a Tuesday morning, the voicemail arrived. The voice was unfamiliar, measured, slightly gravelly. "Hi, this is Tom. I work at the old flooring warehouse on Fairview. We came across something with your name on it during a property cleanout. Might be worth your time to check." Fairview, the same street where my parents had lived before the house was sold and the trust shifted. By afternoon, I was standing there. The building smelled of paint thinner and damp sawdust. Tom, mid-60s, denim shirt, belt heavy with keys, greeted me at the door and guided me past stacks of half-sealed boxes. "Didn't open it," he explained. "Figured you'd want to." The box itself sagged at the corners, my surname scribbled across the lid in faded black ink, Bradley. Inside, I found receipts, bank statements, and shredded envelopes. Beneath those, 2 spiral-bound notebooks. The handwriting was instantly recognizable Evan's, with its curved, slanted strokes, always in black ink. She'd recorded everything. Expenses, some real and some inflated. Notes on overdraft maneuvers, which credit cards still had space. Then a line froze me. In the margin of one page, she had scrawled, "Ask Mom about using Claire's trust. She won't say no if it's for them." I stared at it for a long time. The box also held half-completed apartment applications, my email written in as guarantor, false income claims, emergency contacts I'd never agreed to. She had tried to place the burden on me without even asking. Tom kept his distance, hands sunk into his pockets, silent. I managed only, "Thank you." Back home, I spread everything across the kitchen table. None of it was news, not really. But seeing it gathered in her handwriting gave me a clarity I hadn't expected, and with it, the certainty of a decision I hadn't realized I'd already made. The next morning I called Miriam. I told her about the notebooks, the fraudulent forms, the language that no longer pretended. She didn't ask for scans. She only said, "Bring them in." By noon, the trust was rewritten, every clause reinforced. No new liens, no unauthorized access. Any attempt to tamper would trigger an automatic legal freeze. And we added one more safeguard, an external trustee, independent, untouchable, with no family ties. The house wasn't just protected anymore. It was sealed. That afternoon, I wrote a final letter, not to my parents, not to Evan, but to the trustee. I documented everything, the forged paperwork, the manipulations, the presumption that family equaled permission. I signed, scanned, and archived it. Closing the file didn't feel defensive. It felt like choice, a deliberate end to the cycle. A choice to let silence be peace rather than pressure. A choice to refuse the role of financial reservoir just because. I had never said no aloud. I didn't text Evan. I didn't call my mother. I didn't explain. There's a kind of freedom in not owing anyone, least of all their understanding. Maybe they never even noticed the final barrier. Maybe they keep circling the edges, puzzled at why the gate no longer opened. That would be theirs to carry. Mine had already moved on. That Sunday, I set the table, 1 plate, 1 fork, 1 linen napkin folded beside a wine glass I hadn't touched in years. The overhead light hummed softly, casting a warm glow across the oak table I had refinished 2 winters back. I cooked roasted chicken with lemon and thyme, sautéed green beans, and a sweet potato split open and buttered. I poured a glass of red, not expensive, but it opened well. For a decade, I'd planned meals around everyone else, their allergies, their favorites, their quirks. But this evening wasn't for them. There were no empty chairs, no spare settings. No anticipation of footsteps in the hall. Just me. I ate slowly, one bite at a time, letting the minutes stretch in a way they never had before. When the meal was done, I cleared my plate, washed it by hand, and dried it with a towel Mom embroidered. Back in '92, I folded it carefully, slid it into the drawer, and turned off the kitchen light.